Welcome back to my channel. Angular is scalable framework. With dependency injection, you can encapsulate solution into extendable modules or libraries. One of the key tools for doing this is the InjectionToken. It allows you to provide values or dependencies to third-party libraries. You can configure providers and injectors both at the root level and at the feature level, depending on what makes the most sense for your use case. This flexibility can lead to complexity. In this video, I'll show a few patterns that help maintain flexibility while reducing complexity when configuring Angular providers. My name is Maxim Grom. This channel is about web development. Let's get started. For this lesson, I'll demonstrate one way to structure a feature, one of many possible approaches. Every project has its own style. Typically, you'd create a folder per feature and include an index.ts to export public APIs from that feature. I won't be showing a full real-life feature. Instead, I'll walk you through the logic of splitting responsibilities. You can adapt this to your own project as needed. I've created a foo folder with an index.ts inside. In this case, I can import from foo by using app-foo path without knowing how feature is being organized. If your feature has services, it's a good idea to make them provided in root. I'm going to generate one service in my feature. I've created the service under foo services and exported it via index.ts file. Sometimes a feature needs to provide something outside of itself. For example, HTTP interceptors. To handle this, I'll create another file. Let's call it providers.ts. In that file, I define a function provideFoo. This function returns a list of providers that can be used in app's root config array or lazy feature. If your feature has interceptors, you might want to structure them in an interceptors folder, with one file per interceptor using the suffix interceptor.ts. Let's generate the interceptor for feature. Let's provide it. The key pattern is the feature provides a function that must be called to activate the feature. Let's call it at app configuration. To verify that it works, I need to inject HTTP client and make a call. I injected HTTP client and call Google. Of course, I cannot call Google from my website. I have a course error, but also I have a message from my interceptor. So it works. A feature might also require configuration from the application, like an API key or ID. This can be done via InjectionToken and consumed using the useValue pattern. The issue of providers is that they are not strict from TypeScript perspective. The provideFoo function can accept these values as parameters and return configured providers. I assume that client must have these values as static values, so we don't need to support all types of providers and can use useValue. And of course, app config should be fixed after changing. It is only one possible way how to request params. For instance, provide zone change detection also requests an object, but naming is different. It requests for options object. Provide HTTP client requests features, like with interceptors. Provide router requests an array of routers and an array of router features. Who knows what will be the next standard or recommendation for all of us, but please use common sense and think how to extend it in the future. Let's take a look at feature level configuration. Libraries like NGRX let you add reducers and effects at the lazy loaded feature level. How to do it? To handle that, you'll need a separate provider function like provideForFeature. I found several possible naming conventions. Both start from provideFeature name, like provideFoo, and suffix may be feature or for child. In this example, we have two layers, provideFoo for root and provideForFeature for lazy feature. On feature level, you can request additional parameters and provide them if it's needed for your architecture. For root, we can use different naming convention. We can add suffix for root or root to make it strict for root. In case if we can use one function for both, we good to have it without any suffixes. So my recommendation is simple. Do not use any suffix if feature is good for root and lazy level. If your feature should be configured differently for root and feature, you can use one of two proposed convention. First is provideXRoot and provideXFeature. Another one is provideXForRoot and provideXForChild. Or you can make another one which good for your project. Even if you do consistent in your project, third-party libraries will bring varieties. Interesting what you are doing in your projects. I would like to read it in the comment section. Let's also revisit the classic module-based approach. I really like a module architecture, but I think that it will be deprecated very soon. I am on module-based application right now. We will be following the same logic. For this application, we also need a new folder for a feature. We also need a new folder for feature and a file index.ts to export public API. We need to generate a new module, and it should be exported. By default, if we import the module, we will get all providers from it into imported module. It is similar to provideFeature function. I imported Foo module into app module. What should we do to provide for root only or for feature only? Angular recommends defining two static methods inside the module class. For root, for app-wide configuration, for feature-specific configuration. These methods should return ModuleWithProviders. ModuleWithProviders is an object with properties ngModule and providers. Usually, we will return the same module as ngModule property. This lets you provide HTTP interceptors or other global services only once and avoid mistakes at the feature level. Let's create an interceptor and add it in forRoot function. I generated class-based interceptor, added console log here. As you know, we must provide it in root only, not in lazy feature. My recommendation always providing it in the static function for root, so nobody will provide it accidentally at feature level. With new methods, I need to update how I imported Foo module. If you need specific providers at feature level, like NGRX let us provide effects or reducers, you may add this logic to the forFeature method. Let's summarize this lesson. During developing feature or library, you might want to get environment configurations or some client library params during initialization stage. To provide something in root, you can create a function provideFeatureName for calling it in root for lazy level. If it's not supposed to be called on lazy level, I would recommend adding suffix to the name. provideFeatureName for root or provideFeatureName root. And if you have something for feature level, you can create another function like provideFeatureName feature or provideFeatureName for child. These are not strict recommendations, feel free to define a consistent way for your project. But these combinations are most frequent among Angular libraries nowadays, in my opinion. If you still work with modules, Angular has a pattern for this case. Use forRoot and forFeature static methods. Always return ModuleWithProviders for module-based configuration. Very important takeaways from this lesson. If your library has to provide HTTP interceptors, please provide it inside forRoot static method or in provideFeature name forRoot to avoid providing it in the lazy level. I hope you found this video informative and interesting. If you are doing something different in your project, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching this playlist. See you in the next video. Bye!